The Galactic Academy of Command floated in orbit above the red world of Arctis 4, shining like a jewel in the void. It was not just a school, it was the heart of the future. The most powerful species in the galaxy sent their best and most dangerous young warriors here to learn strategy, command, and the art of interstellar war. And deep inside that academy was Class X9, the most feared and elite class of all. Every student in X9 was female. Every one of them was already a legend. Circa of the bloodborne clans had torn through enemies since she was 9 years old. Tivra of the Vexari Empire could bend metal with her psionic power. Lirene, a silent shadow from the nebula courts, could vanish in plain sight. Together, they made Class X9 a name whispered across the academy with both respect and fear. No one wanted to be their enemy. No one wanted to be their teammate either. They were too strong, too proud, and too unpredictable. So when the class list updated that morning and a new name appeared on the roster, every cadet in X9 paused. Eli Vance, human. Earth sector for a moment, no one said anything. Then the laughter began. Human. Tivra blinked, eyes glowing faintly violet. You mean that soft little species that still uses combustion engines? Circa leaned back in her chair, her long crimson hair spilling over her armor. Must be a joke. Maybe the cleaning staff got promoted. Lirene didn't laugh, but her lips curved slightly. Or perhaps a test subject. The instructors do enjoy experiments. The door slid open and the joke stopped. He wasn't tall. He wasn't muscular. He wasn't glowing, armored, or even armed. He just walked in, wearing a plain blue Earth Academy uniform, creased, simple, and completely out of place among their shining exosuits and holographic emblems. His brown hair was messy. His hands were tucked in his pockets, and most shockingly of all, he was smiling. Morning, he said casually, as if stepping into a coffee shop, not the deadliest classroom in the galaxy. Is this Class X9? Every pair of eyes turned to him. Circa stood, her eyes blazing like molten steel. You're in the wrong room, human. Nope. Eli walked to an empty desk at the back, dropped his bag, and sat down. This is X9. My name's on the list. Tivra tilted her head, curious. Humans don't belong here. You don't even have psionics, do you? Eli shrugged. Nope, just the usual 5 senses. Unless you count sarcasm as a 6th. A few cadets blinked, confused. The translator implant struggled to understand sarcasm. Circa's voice turned cold. Do you have any idea what kind of people you're sitting with, human boy? Eli looked at her calmly. Yeah. Circa of the bloodborne clans won her first duel at 9. Lost her brother in the Dravith War. Joined the academy 2 years later. Known for her berserker fighting style, efficient but predictable. The room fell silent. How? Circa's hand clenched on the table. How do you know that? Eli smiled. I read the Academy's open war archives. I like learning things, he turned to Tivra. Vexari telekinetic, top of your psionic control class, but your power's tied to your emotional state. When you get angry, you lose precision. Her eyes widened. Then he looked at Lirene. And you, master of stealth fields. But you rely on optical camouflage, not sound dampening. If I dropped a coin, you'd have to move to dodge it, and I'd hear that. The shadow girl's smile vanished. Eli leaned back in his chair, folding his arms. So yeah, I think I know what kind of people I'm sitting with. The silence was so thick you could have cut it with a vibroblade. Then someone laughed. It was the instructor. Colonel Draith. A towering reptilian war veteran stood at the front with his clawed arms crossed. His eyes glowed faint yellow as he looked at the human. Well, he said, voice like grinding rock, looks like our new cadet has done his homework. The class turned back to their seats, muttering. Circa's glare lingered on Eli like a blade. Draith activated the holoboard. Listen up, cadets. You think strength wins wars? You're wrong. Information does. Observation does. Adaptation does. He looked straight at Eli. The human seems to understand that. Eli gave a small salute, grinning. Guess I just like staying alive, sir. After class, the whispers began. Maybe he memorized data files. He's bluffing. He won't last a week. Circa wasn't whispering. She stormed into the training hall, fists sparking with energy. He thinks he's clever. Let's see how clever he is when I crush his bones. But Draith's voice echoed over the intercom. Cadets of X9. Tomorrow begins the proving gauntlet. Survival test, no teams, no assistants. Prepare yourselves, Circa froze. Even for her, the gauntlet was brutal. It was a week-long trial inside the Academy's combat simulation zone, designed to break even the best cadets. She smirked. Good. The human won't survive the first hour. That night, Eli sat alone in the dorm common room, a small tablet in his hands. The galaxy's languages and tactical doctrines scrolled across the screen. His eyes moved quickly, absorbing data faster than most computers could process. He wasn't scared. He was fascinated. Every alien species had patterns, rules in how they moved, fought, and reacted. They were powerful, yes, but predictable. Humans weren't. Humans were chaos given form, and Eli planned to use that chaos as his weapon. A soft sound came from the doorway. Loren stood there, half hidden in shadow. You should leave before the gauntlet starts, she said quietly. They won't hold back. Eli smiled without looking up. Neither will I. Her voice dropped lower. You don't understand. Circa fights with rage. Tivra can crush steel with her mind. You'll die. He looked up, eyes calm and bright. Maybe, but I'd rather die trying than live scared. Loren stared for a moment. Then, almost imperceptibly, she nodded and vanished into thin air. Eli chuckled softly. Nice trick. Morning came. The cadets of X9 stood before the massive gates of the gauntlet, armored and armed. The air shimmered with anticipation. The instructors watched from a command tower high above. Colonel Draith's voice thundered over the speakers. Remember, cadets, survive, adapt, and overcome. Begin. The gates opened. Circa roared forward, her energy blades slicing the air. Tivra's eyes glowed as she lifted boulders with her mind. Loren vanished completely, and Eli walked in slowly, hands in pockets. The girls laughed again, until the traps began to spring. Eli had studied the gauntlet's schematics all night. He knew where the plasma turrets were hidden, where the shifting floors would drop, where the gravity wells would activate. He didn't run through them. He used them. He triggered a floor collapse just as a charging Circa leapt, making her land hard in the mud. He redirected a plasma burst toward Tivra's telekinetic shield, forcing it to overload. He dropped a simple metal coin into a tunnel to reveal Loren's movement. When the dust cleared, Eli was standing on the final platform, untouched, calm, grinning. The entire class was staring. Colonel Draith leaned forward from the command tower, his tail flicking. Remarkable, he muttered. Eli looked up at the observation glass and saluted lazily. That was fun. What's next? The colonel laughed for the first time in years. Next, cadet, is survival training. Let's see how long you can keep grinning. But the others already knew the truth. The human boy wasn't a joke. He was a problem. The day after the gauntlet, the entire academy was talking about the human boy who didn't just survive. He outsmarted Class X9. In the mess hall, cadets from other classes whispered about him. Did you hear? The human didn't use any weapons. He beat Circa's timing sensors with coins. Maybe Earth isn't as weak as we thought. But for Class X9, the story was not funny. Circa's pride burned like fire. Tivra's telekinetic control had cracked under pressure. Even Loren, calm and shadow-like, kept replaying the moment Eli had heard her movement through sound. No one liked being outplayed by a boy who still looked like he should be in a normal high school on some quiet green. Planet Eli walked into the training hall that morning with that same easy grin. His uniform sleeves were rolled up and a small grease stain marked his wrist, probably from fixing something again. Circa saw him first. She stood by the gravity weights, her red armor gleaming. You think you're clever, don't you, human? Eli shrugged. Sometimes. Tivra's violet eyes flared with light. You embarrassed us in front of the whole academy. Did I? Eli asked, pretending to think. Or did I just remind everyone that brains matter too? Circa's fist sparked with energy. Keep smiling, boy. You won't survive the next trial. Eli tilted his head. That's what everyone said last time. At that moment, Colonel Draith entered. The reptilian commander's heavy steps echoed through the hall. His scales shimmered with dull silver, and his yellow eyes swept over the class. Cadets, Draith announced. Today we begin the trial by fire. The room went silent. Even Circa's confident grin faded slightly. The trial by fire was one of the hardest tests in the entire academy. It measured combat instinct, teamwork, and survival. Cadets would be dropped into the simulation zone, an artificial world filled with fire, collapsing structures and hostile drones programmed to hunt them. Each of you, Dreith continued, must reach the extraction tower at the center of the map. You will begin separately. You may form alliances or destroy each other. Only those who reach the tower alive will pass. He paused, then smiled faintly. And Cadet Eli Vance will go first. A wave of surprise swept through the room. Alone? Circa said, almost laughing. He'll melt before he makes it 10 meters. Eli just grinned. Sounds fun. Minutes later, Eli stood at the edge of the simulation platform. The training bots attached a sensor vest to his chest and handed him a small pulse rifle. It was heavier than he liked, but he didn't complain. Colonel Dreith's voice came through the comm. Begin! The world around him dissolved into light and rebuilt itself as a burning city. Black smoke filled the air. Metal towers collapsed in the distance. Firestorms roared between streets. Drones circled like vultures above, searching for heat signatures. Eli crouched behind a broken wall, his eyes scanning the chaos. The heat pressed against his skin, but he smiled. All right, he muttered. Let's see what this playground has to offer. The first drone spotted him within a minute. Its red sensor flared and it fired a bolt of plasma. Eli rolled behind a fallen beam. The blast scorched the wall, leaving a glowing scar. He looked at the pattern of its aim. 3 seconds delay between shots. Limited swivel angle. Slow to track horizontal movement. He waited for the third blast, then moved left, sprinting to the next cover. 3 more drones joined in. He ducked, slid, and grabbed a loose metal sheet from the ground. He angled it upward just as another plasma shot came. The blast reflected into the sky, hitting one of the drones by accident. The small machine exploded in a burst of sparks. Eli smirked. 1 down. He wasn't the strongest. He wasn't the fastest. But he watched, calculated, and adapted faster than any of the drones could process. By the time the simulation timer hit 10 minutes, 4 drones were destroyed and Eli hadn't fired a single shot. Up in the observation deck, the rest of Class X9 watched in silence. Tivra frowned, arms crossed. He's using logic like a weapon, Loren spoke softly. He studies before acting. That's unusual, Circa's eyes narrowed. He's hiding behind tricks. Let's see what happens when the big ones appear. Colonel Dreith said nothing. His tail flicked slowly. At the 15-minute mark, the real test began. The ground shook. A massive drone descended from the sky, 3 meters tall, armed with twin plasma cannons. Its armor glowed orange in the heat. Eli looked up. Ah, boss fight. He ducked as plasma bolts shattered the ground. The air burned around him. His vest sensors blinked. If a bolt hit him directly, the system would mark him dead. He ran toward the ruins of a crashed vehicle, bullets of light chasing him. Then he noticed the fuel lines leaking from the wreck. Perfect. He pulled a wire from his pulse rifle and sparked it against the leaking pipe. A small flame caught, traveling along the line straight toward the mech. Eli dove for cover just as the explosion hit. The blast rocked the street, throwing molten metal and smoke into the air. The mech staggered, systems flickering. Eli stood, coughing, waving the smoke from his face. Still standing? All right, round 2. He picked up a broken cable and swung it like a whip. The charged tip hit the mech's open joint, sending a surge of power through it. The machine froze, then collapsed, smoking. Eli dropped the wire and exhaled slowly. Okay, that was something. When he reached the extraction tower 40 minutes later, he was covered in soot and sweat but still grinning. The simulation ended with a flash of light. He reappeared on the training platform. Colonel Dreith's slow applause echoed through the hall. Not bad, Cadet Vance. You passed the first phase without dying once. Eli grinned. Glad to hear it, sir. Dreith turned to the rest of the class. Next, Tivra of the Vexari Empire. Tivra stepped forward, her expression calm but tense. She floated slightly off the ground, surrounded by a faint violet aura. The simulation began again, and she tore through the city like a storm, lifting drones with invisible hands, crushing them into balls of metal. She moved like a goddess of power, but after 15 minutes her energy flared too hot. Her control slipped. A building collapsed near her, and one of the drones struck her shoulder before she could block. Her vest flashed red. Hit detected. When she reappeared on the platform, she looked furious. Eli clapped lightly. Nice show, she glared. Don't mock me, human. I'm not, Eli said. You've got raw strength. You just need pacing. You pushed too hard too early. Tivra hesitated, caught off guard by his calm tone. You think you can teach me? He shrugged. No, but maybe we can learn from each other. Next came Circa. She roared into the simulation, blades flashing, energy crackling. She cut drones apart with fury, but every hit left her open to the next one. The system logged 5 damage alerts before she reached the tower. When she came back, steam rising from her armor, she looked ready to tear something apart. Eli just gave her a half smile. "You fight like lightning, but lightning doesn't last long," she growled. "Keep talking, human, and I'll show you how long it lasts." Colonel Draith stepped between them. "Enough! The trial by fire isn't about who burns brightest. It's about who endures." His gaze rested on Eli. "And the human understands endurance." That evening, the cadets sat in the mess hall again. Most were silent, eating or pretending to. Eli sat alone at a corner table, taking apart a broken drone he'd collected from the field. He hummed quietly, wiping soot from a sensor lens. To his surprise, Loren appeared and sat across from him. She rarely spoke to anyone. "You don't fear them," she said softly. Eli didn't look up. "Should I?" "They could kill you in seconds," he smiled. "Maybe, but fear wastes energy." She tilted her head. "You're strange." "I get that a lot," he said, snapping the lens into place. She studied him for a long moment, then asked, "Why did you come here?" "Humans don't belong in this academy." Eli looked at the drone, its small light flickering back to life. "Maybe that's exactly why I came. Someone has to show what we're capable of." Loren said nothing, but her faint reflection in the drone's lens seemed to smile. The next morning, the results were posted on the holoboard. Trial by fire rankings, Class X and 9. Eli Vance, human. 0 hits Tivra, 1 hits Circa, 5 hits Lyran, 7 hits Stealth Focus. The room erupted in disbelief. Circa slammed her fist into the table, denting it. "This is a mistake!" Draith's voice echoed calmly. "No mistake. The results stand." Eli leaned against the wall, still smiling. "Looks like humans aren't so bad, huh?" Serica pointed at him, her voice low and dangerous. "Enjoy the top spot while you can, human. Because next time I'm taking it back." Eli grinned wider. "I'll save you a place right below me." Even Draith couldn't suppress a small chuckle. "Careful, Vance, that grin of yours might start a war." Eli just shrugged. "Then I guess I'll have to win that one too." That night, as the academy lights dimmed and the stars glowed outside the great windows, a quiet realization spread through Class X9. The human boy was more than clever. He was dangerous in a different way. Not because he was strong, but because he never stopped smiling, no matter how impossible the challenge seemed. The sun rose over the Galactic Academy, turning the domes of its towers gold. The morning announcement echoed through the halls. "Attention Class X9, today begins the Tactical War Simulation Phase. Report to Command Hall 07. The words spread fast. For most cadets, this was their favorite training, a chance to prove they could lead, outthink, and outplan the best in the galaxy. For Circa, Tivra, and Loren, it was more than that. It was a chance to finally crush the smiling human who had beaten them twice. Eli Vance, however, was just finishing breakfast, toast, an apple, and a data pad. He read while eating, calm as always. When Loren passed his table, she asked quietly, "Aren't you nervous?" Eli looked up, smiling. "Should I be?" 6 teams. All alien cadets with command experience. "You'll be alone," she said. "Then it'll be fair," he replied. Loren shook her head. "You're impossible," he grinned. "That's the plan." The simulation begins inside Command Hall 07. The air shimmered with holograms. The walls transformed into a map, a huge battlefield made of deserts, forests, and ruined cities. Colonel Draith stood at the front, tail flicking slowly. "This simulation," he said, "is Galactic War Alpha. Each team represents a faction. You will have armies of drones and limited resources. Victory goes to the team that controls the central command tower." He paused, letting his golden eyes sweep across the cadets. "Eli Vance, human of Earth," he said. "You will command a solo faction. You will face 6 others, each led by your classmates." The entire hall went silent. Tivra smirked. "He'll last 5 minutes." Circa cracked her knuckles. 3, Eli tilted his head. "So much faith in me already." "I'm touched." The simulation pods opened. Each cadet climbed inside. Eli leaned back in his chair as the neural link activated. "Simulation start. War without weapons. When Eli's vision cleared, he stood on a virtual battlefield. The sky was gray, lightning flashing in the distance. Around him floated dozens of mechanical drones, his army. In the far distance, 6 colored beacons marked the other team's bases. A timer appeared on his HUD. Objective: capture Central Tower. 6 hours remaining. Eli rubbed his chin. All right, let's play. He opened his tactical screen. Each drone could be reprogrammed. Flight mode, scan mode, defense mode. Most commanders used them like soldiers. Eli didn't. He used them like puzzle pieces. Meanwhile, the other cadets prepared their attacks. Circa's army charged forward in a full assault, blades flashing and shields blazing. Tivra levitated her drones with telekinesis, turning them into a flying fortress. Loren cloaked her troops, setting up hidden ambushes. Their tactics were strong, fast and obvious. Eli's drones, however, vanished. From the observation deck, the instructors watched the digital battlefield. One of them frowned. Where did the human go? Draith smirked. He's still there. He's just not playing by the rules you expect. On the holographic map, Eli's signals were faint, spreading out like invisible dust across the terrain. He wasn't moving toward the tower. He was mapping everything. The first trap Circa's army reached the central tower first. Her drones slammed into the walls, energy shields glowing bright red. We take it fast, she shouted to her AI interface. No mercy. Then the ground exploded. Dozens of mines detonated beneath her troops. Smoke and static filled the air. The comms glitched, showing only one message flashing in red. Hi, Circa, watch your step. Evie, Circa growled so loudly it echoed through her command pod. That little... Eli's voice came over open comms, calm and friendly. Hey, Circa, you forgot to scan the approach path. Show yourself, human. Can't, busy winning. Tivra's fortress was next. She pushed forward through the sky, confident her power made her untouchable. But halfway across the battlefield, her drones suddenly dropped, falling like rocks. Impossible. She shouted. What happened? Her sensors flickered, showing static symbols. Eli's code had infected her comms. In her display, a small smiley face blinked on and off. EMP pulse. You're welcome. Tivra slammed her fist on the control panel. He hacked me. Draith, watching from above, chuckled. He studied you, Vexari. You rely on power, not systems. He hit you where you didn't think to defend. The shadow duel-only Loren remained unscathed. Her stealth drones moved silently through the forests, invisible to radar. She didn't chase Eli. She hunted him. Interesting, she whispered. Let's see how long you can hide. But Eli wasn't hiding. He was waiting. When her drones entered the canyon near the northern ridge, a faint sound echoed, a soft metallic click. The walls shifted. Hidden panels opened. A wave of holographic decoys appeared, dozens of fake Ellis running in different directions. Loren froze. Decoys? By the time she recalibrated her scanners, her signal feed overloaded. Her drones turned against her, their code rewritten. She realized too late. He'd been luring her into a software trap all along. Her comms buzzed. Hey, Loren. You're good, but sometimes the quietest player is the loudest thinker. For a second, she almost smiled. You're dangerous, human. Thanks, he replied cheerfully. The human strategy by hour 4, every team was crippled. The battlefield was littered with burning drones and disabled machines. In the center, Eli's army appeared again, fully intact, moving in perfect formation. He hadn't fired a single direct attack until now. His drones advanced like a wave of silver, linking together to form a moving shield wall. Energy beams burst outward, clearing the last obstacles. When the dust cleared, the human flag flew above the command tower. Simulation over. Winner, Eli Vance, human, aftermath. The simulation pods opened. One by one, the cadets sat up, blinking and gasping. Eli stepped out last, stretching his arms. Circa jumped to her feet. You cheated. Eli raised an eyebrow. How? You hacked the system, Tivra added. You broke formation rules. He grinned. No, I just read them. Section 3, paragraph 9. Tactical adaptation protocols allowed drone reprogramming mid-simulation. You could have done it too. They stared at him. Colonel Draith's heavy steps echoed as he approached. His golden eyes gleamed with pride. He's right. The human didn't cheat. He innovated. Circa clenched her fists. He humiliated us again. Draith's tail flicked. No, he taught you. You fight with strength, but he fights with understanding. Then he turned to Eli. Cadet Vance, how did you think of that strategy? Eli scratched the back of his head. Simple, sir. I figured everyone here would go for the tower. So I didn't. The colonel blinked. You didn't? No, sir. I went for them. People win wars, not buildings. For a moment, Draith said nothing. Then slowly he nodded. You think like a commander. A new respect later that night in the dorm lounge, Eli sat repairing one of his drones again. His fingers moved calmly, tightening wires and adjusting lenses. Circa entered, silent at first. Her armor was off, replaced by a simple uniform. She looked less like a warrior, and more like a young woman still trying to understand defeat. Eli looked up and smiled. You here to throw me out the window? She folded her arms. I could, but I won't, he nodded. Progress, she sighed. I don't get you, human. You're weaker, slower, smaller. You don't have psionics or exoskeletons, yet you keep winning. Eli leaned back. Maybe because humans learned a long time ago. We don't have to be the strongest. We just have to be the smartest for a few seconds longer. Circa frowned, but there was no anger in her voice anymore. You fight with your head, not your fists. He smirked. I'd fight with my fists too, but I like my bones where they are. For the first time, Circa laughed. A real, honest laugh. Maybe you're not completely useless, she said. Thanks, he said. Coming from you, that's practically a love letter. She rolled her eyes, but she was smiling. Recognition. The next morning, Colonel Draith called for a short ceremony. The entire academy gathered in the Hall of Honor. Class X9, he said. You witnessed something rare this week. A human cadet has accomplished what no one thought possible. Surviving, adapting, and commanding against impossible odds. He motioned toward Eli. Cadet Vance, step forward. Eli walked to the front, hands in his pockets. Grinned steady as ever. Draith placed a silver insignia on his shoulder, the mark of a strategic prodigy. Your mind, the colonel said, is your weapon. Use it well. The galaxy underestimates your species. Make sure they regret it, Eli saluted. Yes, sir. As he turned, he caught Circa's gaze. This time, she didn't glare. She nodded in a sign of respect. Tivra gave a small bow. Loren simply faded from sight, but a whisper echoed near him. Well played, human. Eli smiled wider. Always. That night, as stars glimmered beyond the Academy's glass domes, the galaxy's most dangerous class sat in silence, each thinking the same thing. The boy from Earth wasn't a mistake. He was a message. The next day dawned bright and tense over the Galactic Academy. The previous simulation had sent shockwaves through Class X9. Every cadet knew one truth. The human boy, Eli Vance, was no ordinary student, Circa, the Bloodborne clan's legendary warrior, paced in her quarters. Her red armor gleamed faintly in the morning sun, polished to perfection. She clenched her fists, her mind replaying every move Eli had made during the last simulation. He thinks he can outsmart me, she muttered. He doesn't know who he's dealing with. Her companions, Tivra and Loren, watched silently. They had learned to respect the human's intelligence, but Circa's pride burned too fiercely to allow admiration. You're obsessed, Tivra said softly. I'm not obsessed, Circa snapped. I'm motivated. He can't beat me again. Not in real combat. Not in my arena. Loren tilted her head. He might be smarter, Circa, perhaps. You should try understanding him rather than fighting him blindly. Circa glared. I understand him perfectly. He smiles. That's his weakness. The duel is announced later that morning. The Academy's loudspeakers blared the announcement. Attention, Class X9. A special challenge has been authorized. Circa of the Bloodborne clans has requested a one-on-one duel against Eli Vance, human of Earth, in the Graviton Arena. All cadets will observe. This is a controlled combat trial. Participants must survive at all costs. The room erupted in whispers. Tivra leaned toward Loren. She actually challenged him? Loren shrugged. Yes, this duel will either humiliate him or change everything. Eli, on the other hand, stretched in the dorm, yawning casually. When his friends asked about the duel, he grinned. Sounds fun, he said. I've been waiting for her to stop hiding behind her drones. The Graviton Arena. The arena itself was unlike anything most cadets had trained in. A massive zero-gravity dome floated in the middle of the Academy's central chamber. Magnetic fields, psionic dampeners, and adaptive obstacles made it one of the deadliest training facilities in the galaxy. Eli stepped inside wearing a light combat suit. No heavy armor, no shields, just himself, his agility, and his mind. Circa entered seconds later, her energy blades humming. Red light reflected off her armor, making her seem larger than life. She floated effortlessly, exuding lethal confidence. Ready to lose? She hissed. Eli shrugged. I'm ready to try. Colonel Draith's voice echoed through the arena. Cadets, begin. Round 1. Testing the waters at first, the duel seemed simple. Circa attacked. She lunged with her energy blades, spinning and slashing, each strike meant to end the fight immediately. Eli dodged with surprising speed. He twisted, flipped, and used the arena's magnetic currents to push and pull himself around. Each movement was calculated, precise. You rely on strength, Eli observed calmly. But speed and momentum are your real limits, Circa snarled. Don't talk. She swung again, faster this time. Sparks flew as her blade struck the magnetic walls. Eli rolled and flipped, narrowly avoiding the deadly strikes. Then he did something unexpected. He used the arena's gravity fields to redirect her momentum, sending her spinning past him. Circa landed hard, energy blades still ready. She blinked. You learned my style. Eli grinned. I didn't learn, I observed. Round 2, the trap Circa's attacks became more unpredictable. She combined aerial maneuvers with psionic bursts, trying to catch Eli off guard. He had anticipated many of her moves, but she was adapting fast. Suddenly, the arena lights dimmed. Panels shifted, creating a maze of metal corridors and floating platforms. Eli paused. He analyzed the patterns. Each corridor was designed to funnel him toward her strikes. But he didn't panic. He let her advance first, then used a combination of thruster boosts and wall rebounds to appear behind her. He tapped lightly on her back with a magnetic sensor. Circa spun around, ready to strike, but Eli wasn't in the same position anymore. He had already moved again. You're impossible, Circa shouted, frustration breaking through her calm exterior. Eli laughed softly. Not impossible, just human. Round 3, learning each other, minutes passed. The duel became a dance of anticipation and counters. Neither struck a fatal blow, yet every movement tested their skills to the limit. Circa noticed something. Eli didn't fight like a soldier. He didn't attack with anger or pride. He attacked with observation, with patience. He predicted her attacks before she made them, not with magic or brute force, but by watching her rhythm, her breathing, the slight flick of her wrist. She realized, almost unwillingly, that he was teaching her. Every move she made, he countered. And in doing so, he revealed how predictable she truly was. You're showing me my weaknesses, she said between breaths. I'm showing you, Eli replied calmly, that even the strongest warrior can learn from someone else. The unexpected. Ally halfway through the duel, the arena shifted again. A sudden zero-gravity corridor opened. Without warning, a small swarm of drones descended from the ceiling. Circa froze, distracted. Eli acted fast. He pushed off a wall and used a micro-grenade to disable the drones, protecting both himself and Circa. What? Circa gasped. Consider it a lesson, Eli said. Sometimes the right move is to protect your opponent. It's how humans win wars. Circa hesitated. She had never fought alongside someone who was technically her enemy, and yet for the first time she felt the possibility of cooperation. Round 4. Respect earned, the duel continued. Circa's energy blades clashed against Eli's thruster-enhanced dodges. Sparks and light flares danced across the arena. For the first time, the arena quieted. The other cadets were silent, watching this extraordinary display of skill and strategy. Circa realized something profound. The human boy wasn't strong. He wasn't the fastest, but he was adaptable, clever, and calm under pressure, traits she had never respected before. When Eli paused, floating in front of her with a grin, Circa stopped attacking. You're not like anyone I've ever fought, she admitted. Neither are you, Eli said. But that's why it's fun. For a moment, the two simply floated there, breathing in the zero-gravity silence. The final move. The arena's timer approached 0. Neither combatant had landed a decisive strike. Eli knew he couldn't win by brute force. Instead, he executed a clever maneuver. He timed a thruster boost perfectly with a shift in the arena's magnetic field. Circa's momentum carried her past him, leaving her slightly off balance. He extended a hand, not to strike, but to stabilize her. "You lost," she said, voice quiet but calm. "Not at all," Eli replied, grinning. "We learned. That's a win for both of us." Circa glared, but her lips twitched. A faint smile appeared. "This is infuriating," Eli laughed. "Good, that means it worked." Aftermath Colonel Draith entered the arena, tail flicking. "Remarkable," he said. "Both cadets demonstrated the highest level of skill, strategy, and endurance I have seen in years. Human Vance, you have proven once again that your species should never be underestimated." Eli saluted. "Thank you, sir." Circa floated quietly, watching him. For the first time, she didn't feel anger. Instead, she felt respect. Later in the dorm, she approached him. "You fight differently than anyone else. And yet you make me want to improve," Eli grinned. "That's the human way. Always learning, always smiling." Circa shook her head, half annoyed, half impressed. "I hate that you're right." "You won't be the last," Eli said, still smiling. "The lesson learned." The other cadets began to see a change. Where they had once only competed with Eli, they now observed him, learning, questioning, and strategizing differently. Class X9 wasn't just a dangerous class anymore. With Eli's presence, they were evolving. They were learning not just to fight, but to think like humans, and Eli, he simply kept grinning. Because every challenge, every battle, and every duel wasn't just about survival. It was about showing the galaxy what humans were capable of: cleverness, creativity, and courage. The Academy's central dome glimmered with holographic light as cadets gathered for the final challenge of the semester: the ultimate simulation war. Colonel Draith's voice boomed through the hall. "Class X9, today you face the ultimate test. All previous simulations have led to this. The galaxy will not wait for the weak. Adapt, survive, lead, and remember, victory comes to those who think beyond strength." The cadets, including Circa, Tivra, and Loren, looked tense but determined. They were warriors. They were legends. But something had changed since the arrival of the human boy. Eli Vance, calm as ever, leaned against a wall, his usual grin in place. "You ready for the big show?" he asked Loren, who floated silently nearby. "Ready to see if your humans really are as clever as they say," she replied softly. Eli winked. "Oh, they're clever. I'm just the start." The simulation war begins. The arena materialized around them. Unlike previous trials, this simulation was massive. Entire planets scaled down to a battlefield, complete with mountain ranges, rivers, forests, and urban centers. Each cadet commanded their own faction. The goal was simple: control the central super command station. But every faction had powerful weapons, drones, and psionics. Only one could win. Eli stepped forward. He was outnumbered, outgunned, and yet he felt excited. "This is going to be fun," he murmured. As the simulation started, Circa's army moved aggressively, blasting through defenses and claiming territory quickly. Tivra's psionic fortress floated overhead, manipulating the battlefield with telekinesis. Loren's stealth drones ambushed from shadows, invisible and deadly. Eli did none of that. He moved slowly at first, observing. Every movement, every attack, every reaction, he studied. The human advantage within the first hour, chaos erupted. Circa charged, Tivra lifted boulders, Loren struck from hiding. Most cadets panicked. But not Eli. He noticed a pattern. Each cadet relied on predictability. Circa attacked in bursts of rage. Tivra depended on telekinesis to block attacks, and Loren's stealth had blind spots in sound and motion. Eli smiled. Humans weren't the strongest. But humans were creative. They used patterns, deception, and timing. He activated his drones in a new way, not to attack but to manipulate. One group simulated his presence in the north, drawing Circa's forces there. Another group nudged rocks into Tivra's path, slowing her advance. He created sound illusions to mislead Loren. Step by step, he controlled the battlefield, not through power, but through strategy. Circa learns to adapt. Circa charged toward his base, furious. She expected him to be weak, to flee or panic. Instead, Eli anticipated every strike. "You're hiding behind tricks again," she yelled. "Not hiding," he replied. calmly redirecting her momentum with a magnetic pulse, adapting. For the first time, Circa felt frustrated in a new way. He wasn't just surviving. He was teaching her the limits of her own tactics. Slowly, grudgingly, Circa began to adapt. She changed her attack rhythm, varied her approach angles, and coordinated with her drones differently. Eli noticed, and he adapted as well. A silent duel of wits and observation had begun across the battlefield. Tivra and Loren challenged him. Meanwhile, Tivra realized she couldn't rely solely on raw power. Eli's misdirection had slowed her. She altered her telekinesis strategy, lifting multiple drones at once in complex patterns. Loren's stealth became more unpredictable, but Eli had already mapped the faint micro-disturbances of her cloaked drones. He deployed countermeasures, tiny sensors that detected heat fluctuations, revealing her hidden units. The battlefield was alive with motion, a chessboard of metal, light, and energy. And Eli smiled through it all. The turning point after 3 hours. Only 3 factions remained: Eli, Circa, and Tivra. Loren had lost most of her units, retreating to observe. Eli's army was smaller but more precise. His drones moved with perfect timing, predicting enemy movements and controlling the pace of combat. He realized the key to victory wasn't destroying his opponents, it was forcing them to make mistakes. Circa launched a furious assault. Eli dodged and countered, guiding her energy strikes into empty space using momentum and misdirection. She stumbled slightly, her pride wounded. Tivra's fortress descended, attempting to crush Eli's remaining units, but he had learned her exact reaction time. A simple, well-timed EMP pulse disabled half her drones. In minutes, both cadets' armies were scattered and exhausted. Only Eli's units remained fully operational. The final challenge, the Super Command Station, loomed ahead, heavily defended by remaining drones and energy barriers. Eli assessed it. A frontal attack would be suicide. Instead, he split his forces, sending a small diversionary unit to the south while he guided the main group through a hidden route along the magnetic field lines. Circa and Tivra realized too late. They had been baited. Eli's drones struck the control nodes in perfect synchronization. The station's lights flickered. Then the central flag of his faction rose. Simulation war complete. Winner, Eli Vance. Human victory and recognition. The arena dissolved. The cadets returned to the hall, exhausted and amazed. Eli stood in the center, grinning. Circa, bruised but standing, walked up to him. "I don't know if I hate you or respect you," she said. Eli shrugged. "You can do both," she smirked faintly. "You changed how I think. That annoys me." Tivra stepped forward. "Your human cleverness is unmatched. You don't fight with power. You fight with your mind." Loren, finally appearing, whispered, "You've taught us something we didn't know we needed." Colonel Draith's tail flicked in approval. "Cadet Vance, you've done more than survive or win. You've changed Class X9. They will fight smarter, think faster, and adapt in ways they never have before. You've shown the galaxy what humans are capable of." Eli saluted. "Thank you, sir. I just..." kept smiling. The human way that evening, the cadets of Class X9 gathered quietly. No one spoke at first, but their expressions told the story. Circa approached Eli. "Humans aren't supposed to be this adaptable," Eli smiled. "That's because we've learned something very important. Strength isn't everything. Brains, patience, and teamwork matter too. And never forget to smile while doing it." Circa rolled her eyes, but the corner of her mouth twitched. Tivra nodded slowly. "We underestimated you, but you've taught us all a lesson." Loren, hovering in shadow, simply said, "The galaxy will have to pay attention now. A new beginning." The victory wasn't just personal. It wasn't just about simulations or training. Eli had done something far more important. He had changed the mindset of the galaxy's most dangerous cadets. Class X9 no longer saw him as a weak human. They saw him as a strategist, a thinker, a force that could not be ignored, and Eli, he just grinned because the truth was simple. Humans were underestimated. They had flaws, yes, but their ability to think differently, adapt, and never give up made them dangerous beyond belief. As the stars glittered outside the academy windows, one thought crossed his mind. The galaxy had underestimated humans for too long.